And you can jump to gpgtools.org, and then it's like the first link right there for downloading, and then Windows. After you do that, don't do anything else. Just download it and hold it there, and I'll talk to you about how we can verify some of this data. Okay. All right. Well, my name is Justin, and like I said to the group earlier, this is going to be more of a hands-on type of workshop type of talk rather than an explicit. I'm going to stand up here and rant. So I'm going to run through some commands, some steps. I'm going to talk about why we're doing certain things, and if you guys got questions or you get lost and you need help, just raise your hand. I had mentioned that I have a MiFi available if someone needs a password to get that to download these two downloads. If you have Linux, you probably already have these commands. We're going to run most of the stuff through command line just because it's unique. It's the same cross-platform for the most part because we're using the same command. But each flavor of these tools provides you a unique GUI that you could use, and as you become more familiar, you can dive more into it. This is really going to just get us started. So the idea of cryptography obviously is keeping something secret. And we can do that in a couple different ways. We could restrict our access, so we can put it in a safe and not let nobody freaking touch it. And that works out really well for a lot of environments. Obviously, you get safe deposit box, you shove it in there, nobody can go to it. But your access sucks. So nobody can get to it. You have to have the key, you got to go there, and you got to go to a particular facility, or it's in a lock safe. Bunch of pain. You're really delegating that security and control to another party. We can hide something in plain sight. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about more here. And that's the second concept we're going to provide with cryptography, is providing some confidentiality and also integrity. And that's going to allow us to have features like non-repudiation. So we're going to determine integrity by commonly using an avalanche effect hashing. And that's going to allow us to be able to verify that the input that we're providing using a particular hash function results in the same hash sum. And so I asked you guys to go ahead and download those files specifically, and I was going to go ahead and talk you through. So if you have Windows, you can probably all have PowerShell, I'm sure. If you have Windows 7 or 8 or 10 or whatever. You're going to go ahead and run this command, get-file hash space -path, and then the directory, the actual file that it's on. So you may need to either CD to that directory or navigate to your downloads folder, wherever you dropped it from. And then you're going to do space -algorithm SHA-1. And it's going to spit out a long string like this, and that is actually your hash sum. And that's what that's doing is it's providing you a way to determine if this file has been modified in transit. And it's really difficult because it's kind of a cart and horse issue that happens when you're trying to get some of these tools downloaded, and that's really because how can you verify that somebody has the good file that you're wanting without being sure it's them, because you've got no way to verify their authenticity. So you're really just going to trust me, the fact that SHA-1 is right. It's on their website also, that the code is can be trustworthy, and you're obviously doing a computer that you feel trusted, that you want to set this up on. If you're using Mac, you can use SHA-SUM, and then the same thing to your downloads directory. And I think when I made these slides, it was 2015.08, not 09. The newest came out like yesterday on 09, so I didn't update it. But this is going to help us determine that that file has not been modified. So, an avalanche effect, if a file has been modified even just one bit, the hashing function, the result is going to be much different. And you can see that from the image up here. You just change the last bit of that file, and it completely modifies it. So if somebody goes in there and wants to try and tinker with something in transit, or you believe something might have not been brought down right, it's an excellent way to handle that. So after we've downloaded this file, one of the other functions besides integrity that we're concerned about is our confidentiality. And we really got two ways to try to keep something secret and confidential. We can use symmetric key cryptography, or we can use asymmetric key cryptography, and they both have pluses and minuses. They're both used today, and they both have a lot of awesome features. But where we get the really sweet thing is when you mix the two of them together and you start blending and using them from their pluses in both environments. So in symmetric key cryptography, the key that goes to encrypt and also decrypt is exactly the same. And that means it usually uses a simpler operations. It's faster and it's more efficient. Unfortunately, though, if we were to talk about having secure communications across the entire room between myself and each one of you, where you could not intercept the message that might have been occurring between us, we would need to have an exponential number of keys for the room that's in here, because I would need to have one to you, and then one to you, and one to you, and you would need to have one to me, and then one to each other. And it just gets all sorts of messy and difficult to try to handle. Another negative about it is that you've got offline key exchange that you're needing to do. So I can't just pick up the phone and tell you a secret message and then also tell you that secret over that same band. What I have to do is I've got to figure out an offline mode to do it. So I either got to come to you in the park and I got to slide you that piece of paper and it has the password on it, and then later we can continue our conversation using symmetric key cryptography. So that would be the out-of-band or the offline key exchange that you're going to go and do. And again, it could be online or offline. It doesn't mean like actually on the internet offline. But it would be usually an out-of-band communication. And asymmetric key cryptography allows us both the public and private key, and they both have particular features of what they do. And you can send that key material along with the message. And the nice thing is that the key growth is linear, so how many people we have would be how many keys we would want, and it would only remain that way. We see lots of asymmetric key systems like AES and DES, Triple DES, RC, Two-Fish, Cas5, and you can see exactly how this is broken up, where the message is both encrypted and decrypted using the same shared secret. And it allows you to be able to send that message very quickly. And there's methods of sending it and how it's encrypted, and whether or not it's done multiple iterations. And it can be very, very quick for symmetric. Asymmetric is a little more complicated, but it does bring some interesting features to the party. And that is that we both have, like I said, a public and a private key, and that's used RSA, DSA, Algamal. There's several other methods that are used to calculate this, and that uses something to both encrypt and decrypt. One of the other features that happens with the asymmetric key systems is that allows you to be able to, if you did the operation in reverse, and you were using someone's private key, you were using your private key against a file, and then you handed that back to a person, they could actually verify that they did not have, there could be non-repudiation. So you could sign that particular file. You can state that it has to have come from me because I gave it to you and it was signed with my password and you guys decrypted it using my public key. So that's one of the features for that. The other options, of course, you could use something else like a one-time pad or other type of crypto methods to communicate a message to somebody else. And then what I mentioned about combining it. So by taking, not only using a symmetric key and also an asymmetric key, we could establish a communication chain to discuss our symmetric key by using asymmetric cryptography. And then after that's been started, we can then get into symmetric, and then following there have this faster communication. But because the entire session began with an asymmetric, it would remain secret the entire way. So at this point, that was kind of covering those. We want to go ahead and install that operation if you guys are following along. So you're going to go ahead and install. It's pretty much next finish for all of the applications that I've ran it on from both my PC and my Apple system. So I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to take a drink. So I was following along. You guys caught up so far? Downloaded GPG tools or GPT for Win. When you go through a couple commands that are on there, if you're going to go up into your command prompt or terminal, and if you run GPG --K, it's going to show your key ring, and this is going to begin us on our concept of asymmetric cryptography. It allows you to be able to see all of the keys, both public and private, that you hold into your key ring. And just like your key ring that you use for your key, your car or your house, there's a different key that exists on every single one. And they have different features that are available to them and different methods that they can do. The very first command that was going to get us started is we're going to type GPG --expert --gen-key. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be generating a key for ourselves on our secure machine, or machine that we feel has standard validity of security. We know we've been with it. It's not been out of our sight for a significant period of time. We didn't have some Yahoo install some weird things on it. When you do that, it's going to go and ask you to begin with the install, and I would press 8. You're going to figure out which method you're going to use. And 8 is going to be an RSA, and we're going to choose our own settings. And the reason why we chose expert is because without that, we would have been stuck with just a few of the options, and we want to have a little more customization, and we're all experts here. We're all hackers. The next thing is that you're going to go ahead and choose like Q, followed by 4096, and that's the key length. Asymmetric keys use a couple different methods for actually creating security, and it's usually, in this method, it's used by factorization of primes. Some crazy math that goes on, and I'm not qualified enough to explain all of it, but what I can tell you is that it's been well documented, well tested, and this is good stuff that's going to keep us secure and keep our messages to pick up the milk all working well. The next command, option that comes after the 4096 is that we want to choose our expiration date. You may say, well, why would I want to have an expiration? I want this to continue to work forever. But the problem is, if you don't set an expiration date and you happen to have lost your key over a period of time, you forgot to tell anybody else about it, they may still continue to send you messages thinking that you are able to validly receive them and open them, and you wouldn't be because you may not have it anymore. So we can set an expiration date. 1 year is great. I commonly put it as my birthday. You can change that more granularly in your own application a little bit later. But 1 year sets us a nice boundary. Any expiration date can always be extended also. As long as you still have that private key, you can extend that expiration date and definitely keep doing it every single year, or every 2 months, or every 6 months, or every however long you decide to extend it. Next, we're going to go ahead and push Y, which is confirmation. It's going to then ask you for your first and last name. Now, this is the particular ID that you're going to use, and people are going to respond to you. So, if I was to go on and I want to call myself George Washington, the computer doesn't know any different that I'm not George Washington. But when I want to talk with when I ask one of you guys, my peers in the room, to go ahead and sign my key or validate the fact that I am George Washington, you guys are going to see my ID and say, "You're not George Washington, you're Justin Herman. I'm not signing this key because I don't trust that." So you want something that you have positive ID on, your legitimate first and last name. You can add other contacts and other unique IDs to this key at a later point. But really, this is just going to get us started. The next option from there is the valid email. I'm going to encourage you guys to go ahead and send the recipients of the signed key to their valid email that they're going to enter there. And following that, you got comments. I just push enter with nothing there. O is going to go ahead and say that you accept, and then you're going to type your passphrase in twice. And key thing about the passphrase, all of the public and private keys are being encrypted and being secured by using this passphrase, and it's using actually symmetric key cryptography to secure that. So you really, when it says passphrase, it doesn't mean Apple 123 or Winter 15 or something stupid like that. You want to have a long, secure password. If this private key ever got lost or was stolen or something like that, you would not want this to be found in a dictionary attack or a easy brute force. So choose something like a passphrase, maybe a passage of a book, and include some unique options about that. So, really try to step that up. And if you need some time to think about that or work that out, you can change this in the future. It is possible, but I would encourage you to please pick something somewhat secure, somewhat that you don't use for your regular machines or your regular Gmail account or Facebook or anything. Yes?
When we're putting in our first, last name, and our email address, is that going to be
He asked if the email and your name would be viewable to anyone else. It would be if you supplied it to a key server, and those are fully indexable and are pretty much indelible, where you're not going to be able to remove your information once it's been added to that. If you don't wish to have your information set that way, you don't have to put it to a key server. That is optional. But you lose some of the flexibility that comes with being able to get your public key to other users who might be wanting to send you a message. So, something to think about. Again, this is you can do as little or as much as you want to be involved. It's kind of just up to you. Okay? Answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody
going along so far and got confused about this command, or everybody's kind of generated this key? It's going to probably ask you to create some entropy while it's generating, so might maybe move the mouse or open up other applications while it's running, and that's completely normal.
Next thing following this.
So the next thing following this is, of course, we need to go ahead and create a revocation certificate. The problem is if you lose your private key and you don't know where it's at, you can't get it all, or you might believe that someone else has compromised it, you're going to want to be able to revoke that and put it on the servers, the key servers, and generate the fact that you're not using this anymore, don't send it here anymore, and that it is completely invalid. And the revocation certificate can only be used for that purpose. So what you're going to do for that is type GPG space sorry, this doesn't have to be tac-tac-a, it can be just tac-a. I mistyped that. Tac-tac gen revoke, gen dash revoke, the key ID. Now the key ID is this is the first time we brought this up, but the key ID is actually an identifier that is on the key and how you're going to uniquely see it, and it's 8 characters, and you will actually find that if you're lost at the moment, you can actually go back and type in GPG-K, and when you do that, you'll actually see all of your keys and your key ring after you've generated that up. And that key ID is going to, like I said, be 6 characters. It's the last couple digits from the fingerprint, which is how the system identifies. 10 minutes, thank you. Identifies the fact that it's which key it is in your environment and which key it would be throughout it. It uses the same type of a similar hashing function where you've got an avalanche effect to determine that fingerprint. So if your key ring ever changed, if your private key ever changed, the fingerprint would ideally be completely modified also. So you type in that 8-digit key ID. And we're going to go ahead and push that into the revocation _ certificate. And the reason we're going to choose is that I'm not using anymore, but you can choose any other option. Honestly, it's more of a comment feature. And then when it comes up to saying OK, you go ahead and accept OK.
Following that,
you can go ahead and import keys. So if you got a key ring and you want to add a new key onto it, or you want to transfer this key to somewhere else, to another computer, another machine you want to go ahead and use, you can use GPG space -- import followed by the key ID .asc, whatever the file is that you've exported. And I'm going to show exporting next. For the exporting, this is if you wanted to put this onto your thumb drive and put it in your safe deposit box, or have it somewhere, or even print it out, anything you wanted to do. GPG space -a space tac-tac export tac secret tax key, that key ID, and you can pipe that into a file, secret key. Same thing you can do for GPG tac-a tac-tac export secret key, and then bring that into public key.gpg. And the A feature is actually armoring, and what that means is that instead of pull out full binary on it, it's actually making sure the output of that is in full ASCII, so you can actually read it and copy it and modify it and move it around.
Fingerprint.
The fingerprint, like I had mentioned, would be able to show you just that particular fingerprint if you use the key ID. So GPG, tac fingerprint, followed by the key ID. If you wanted to delete a key, you could do GPG, tac delete, -secret, -and, -public, -key, and then the key ID. And obviously that would destroy it from the key ring. Now, if you still had it on your machine or saved somewhere on the file system, it could still be recovered and picked back up, but this would go ahead and start from there and delete that from the key ring.
I mentioned about key servers.
I had mentioned about key servers. Key servers exist in the world, and they're all linked together, similar to a DNS environment, where if you had made one modification to one of them, that will get propagated out through the rest. All the GPG installations that I've seen nowadays support having a built-in key server. You could choose and modify that. They are changeable throughout that, but that's kind of beyond the scope of this talk. If you wanted to send a key to there, which I have my key sent and added to the servers, is you can do GPG space tac send tac key followed by my key ID. And what that does, like I said, it sends that private key, that public key, not the private, the public key, sends it up to the key servers and makes that downloadable for other users. So if you wish to send something to myself, you could send it, you could then go to the key servers, do a query on them, and then pull down you can pull down my public key and then be able to send me a message encrypted with my public key, so that way only I could decrypt it using my private key. If you wanted to receive keys, so let's say you're on your machine, you wanted to pull down my information and you want to send me a message, you could use the received keys function up there, and you could use my key ID, and you can find that either by me sharing that with you or by the fact that you would pull that from one of the key servers where you'd browse to it. And I can show you that a little bit later, maybe a little after the talk.
Everybody make sense so far?
Does everybody make sense so far? Yeah? Up, down? No? Yes. Okay. Yeah?
Let's say I have 4 machines, I'm generating this key here. It doesn't matter, I can use my key.
You would need to move your private key to those machines if you wish to decrypt messages that were destined for you to that key. Yes.
And I do that with the export.
Yep. You just do the export secret key and export the public key, and then you can import those back in using the import command. And once it's on those machines, obviously the more diversified those machines are, the more security risk you put to yourself. But the beautiful thing about asymmetric key cryptography and using things of this nature is the fact that you're only putting yourself at risk. You're not putting anyone else at risk or the whole network at risk, because now you've shared the password as Derby123. Instead, it's a long cryptographic information that's really not easy. You're not normally going to communicate that via via Word or something. And you want to, of course, securely move those files. You don't want to just grab your public key and then put it in your Dropbox, or send it to yourself via email, because anytime that would be possible to be compromised, you'd have an issue. So it'd be real smart for you to put it on a thumb drive of something you trust, even if you just use it for that particular moment on a machine that you trust, and modify it and put it over. But yeah, there's a lot of complex environments that exist, setups that exist with GPG and OpenGPG, where you can sign and have different purposes for your keys, such as authentication or encryption or signing or certifying. You can build subkeys. This is a really wide environment, and when I had submitted this talk, I didn't think it was going to be the one that's accepted, but I'm happy it was. But it's definitely more in depth than this talk gives it justice, and This is supposed to be just kind of a primer to get you started in a way that you can feel a little bit more secure, and you can begin with it. Following that, we've got signing a key, and I mentioned that you've got different options that are available. And the way that we just generated our key, we want to now sign it. And most of the GPG installs already signed your own public key, the one you generate. But just in case they haven't, you can type GPG space tac sign tac key followed by the key ID, and that would sign a particular key. Now this method, this step here is also the same one you would use if you were to sign someone else's key, and that's what actually we're going to do later this afternoon, right after this, is we can sign each other's key. So I would go ahead and import your key ID after it's been uploaded to the key server, or if it's been communicated through us in another method, and then we would go ahead and perform a key signing on that. So I would sign your public key, and then I would send that. I could then export that key after I've signed it, which is what the second command is, GPG space tac armor tac output, whatever the file name we want it to be, .asc, tac export, and then the key ID of the key that I just signed, which was yours. And then what I would do is I would go ahead and send that file to the recipient. So if I was to send yours, I would get your public key either from a key server or communicated through us in some method. I would go ahead and sign that key after it's in my key ring. I would then export that signed key, and then I would give that back to you. And with that information added back to your key ring, you would then have validity to state that Justin has signed the fact that you are who you say you are, and I feel trusted by that. And then you could decide if you wish to upload that to a key server, and if you did not wish to do that, your information would remain secure, and you wouldn't be put on those key servers.
Is that a self-signed key, though? Because you're not, unless you were trusted by.
No, that's part of.
No, that's part of it's beginning on the web of trust, which had to be excluded from this. But that's the concept. Because I've signed it, I provide you some validity to your key. And so if someone else looking at that, they could see that I have stated that your key is valid. And so if you were to speak with him, you would then know that someone who's said a talk about public key cryptography and things exist, that's probably a valid key, at least in that respect. Now, you may not be trusted for what you do or any other respect, but you at least know that I've verified your identity, and that would be a valid way to receive it. If you decide to push it up to the key server, it would be listed with the fact that I have signed that and be a way to have that. If you didn't, then there wouldn't be any other record. Okay? So now that we've covered all of that, I've only got a few short minutes, and I want to hit on why the heck would we even do this? What would we even use this for? I know that we're recording a lot of this and we're running out of time for it, but you can sign files or text documents, emails, or any other sorts of messages that you want by using sign. Now what that does is it takes the whole file and it actually will encrypt and sign it. You could do clear sign, which leaves, which will actually append it at the bottom, not modify the original data in the file. It won't modify the original content of that, but it will actually append it to the bottom for a clear sign, which you can find a little portion there will be signed message. A detach sign, which creates a secondary file in addition to the primary file. That you can verify that with. And then, of course, the verify. And verify option, you include both the signature and the original file. Verify, and it would tell you whether or not that file was given by you or myself, whoever signed it with their private key, but you would verify it with their public key. So you're running that encryption, decryption mechanism really kind of on its head and working from there. I had mentioned that the signing offers non-repudiation. Because I've signed something, you can't. There's no way for me to deny the fact that I did not send you the message or that it wasn't originally from me. That gives you kind of almost somewhat of a legal ability, because I'm the only one who should have that private key, so I'm the only one who could sign that file. It's also a feature in Git. I heard a talk earlier today in the staple here about how you can add your own key, your own private key, your own public key and sign commits in Git, and that's a complete option and feature. And then, of course, some features and things that are in the future. Of course, no system is perfect. Longer keys, we used to believe that shorter keys would be perfectly fine. You were talking about 1024 and 2048, and as time goes on, we want to keep pushing that envelope for larger keys, which provide us a longer bounty of time. All of these features are just like a safe and a lock. I mean, if you have a person long enough, they're going to get through. You've got enough computers, enough systems, they're going to find a flaw. There's going to be a method that's going to break this. What this is designed to do is push that time envelope beyond what they'd be able to normally reach. One of the newer things is elliptic curves. That's a beta feature that's available in some of the releases of GPG, but they're still not having that fully implemented on most of the ones, so that's why we didn't use that. That actually will use a smaller number, but because it uses a different method, it's not using factorization, you're actually able to extract out a little more efficiencies because it's not so longer. And then, of course, quantum resistive cryptography, which is out of this world, crazy sauce, and I don't know enough about it to even say any more than that. Honestly, if quantum computing came out today, we'd all be kind of screwed, but, that's just what it is. So, with all that in mind, the question is, is this really worth it? And it seems this is kind of hard. Why the heck would I care about this? My data is not even all that important. I'm just sending a message to my friend about a particular code or a particular project that I'm working on. And a great quote that I always try to think about with that is, it goes, encryption works. Properly implemented strong crypto systems are one of the few things that you can rely on. Unfortunately, endpoint security is so terrifically weak that the NSA can frequently find ways around that. And, of course, that was said by Edward Snowden. You should probably know a thing or two about cryptography and some of the capabilities of the NSA. But honestly, the more that we use these tools that we have kind of fought for and that we strive to have. I mean, back in the 90s in the crypto wars, we didn't have many of these options available to create these communications. For us to not use them seems like a waste at best and an insult to the the time and lives that were ruined during for the crimes that would have been committed for publishing out these things that were considered weapons of war. And that we have an ability to go ahead and use and have. So, beyond that, we're going to do and set up a key signing where anyone who'd like to participate, part of that, they can come on up. I'm going to turn the microphone off. We can exchange identification, and I can sign your keys, and you can sign mine, and we can go from there. So, without any other questions, thank you so much. You can. Or I can